Hi, everyone. You're listening to Radio Cherry Bombe, and I'm your host, Carrie Diamond, coming to you from New York City. Today's guests are Lydia Keating and Max Baroni. They're culinary creators and one of my favorite food couples. I met them last year on a Kerrygold brand trip to Ireland and couldn't wait to have them on my show one day. Lydia went from Division I rowing at Yale to stand-up comedy in Hollywood to discovering a love for running and cooking. She attended Ballymaloe Cookery School in Ireland, which I know so many of you want to attend one day, me included. Lydia has been busy lately working to build community offline with Goodstory, her running and storytelling club. Lydia is all about inspiring creativity through movement and in-person connections. Max, meanwhile, has a popular Substack titled Hot Side, and he is making a name for himself with his cooking videos on Instagram. Max graduated from college, unsure what he wanted to do with his life. He loved cooking, so he looked for work in restaurants, but no one would hire him. He eventually got a job at a sandwich shop where he worked heads down for a year, and then went on to work at Haas Doc Biet and the Four Horsemen. We talk about their tenacity, their meet-cute story, our favorite parts of the Kerrygold trip, and what's next for them. Stay tuned for my chat with Lydia Keating and Max Baroni. By the way, this is Max's first podcast. Nice work, Max. Our interview was recorded at Newsstand Studios at Rockefeller Center. Speaking of Kerrygold and Substack, just in time for St. Patrick's Day tomorrow, I have a new Substack that's all about the crisp sandwich. I'd never heard about this sandwich until Irish actor Colin Farrell talked about it on one of his press tours last year. He talked about it a lot. I don't know. I think he was feeling homesick. Anyway, it's the simplest sandwich ever. Bread, Kerrygold butter, potato chips, which the Irish call crisps. I share a recipe and instructions on how to make it, but truly, you don't need a recipe. It's the most intuitive thing to make ever. And bonus, the ASMR is unmatched when you press down on the bread, butter, and chips to meld everything. I also share a link to a Spotify playlist I made of some Irish music I love, from the Cranberries to CMAT. My Substack is a fun read for St. Patrick's Day or any day. So check it out for free at cherrybomb.substack.com. That link is in our show notes. And if you make the sandwich, DM me and maybe Colin too. Now, let's check in with today's guests. Lydia Keating, Max Baroni, welcome to Radio Cherry Bombe.
Thank you. We're so excited to be here.
This is sort of my lazy way of getting to do a reunion with you two. It's like just have you on the podcast and we can catch up on air. I can't believe I haven't seen you since May of last year.
I know. It's bad. We need to see each other more.
We met on a Kerrygold press trip last May, and it was such a dreamy trip, and we'll talk a little bit more about the trip. But we had that fun dinner. They kind of broke our group up into two parts, and we had that fun dinner at Castle Martyr Resort. I don't remember the name of the restaurant. I remember the chef, but I don't remember.
We all remember the chef.
Unforgettable.
Vincent or Vincent. I don't think anyone called him Vincent. But Vincent, I know you listen to my podcast every week, so... No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I was like, yes, girl.
You're more gullible than I. My friends say I'm the most gullible human being. I now met someone who's more gullible. Anyway, Vincent, if you do listen, we're all thinking about you. Love you. So you two told me how you met, and I thought it was literally the cutest meet cute story I had ever heard in my whole entire life. Beats, Harry Met Sally stuff. Lydia, why don't you go first? Because I feel like Lydia's part kind of comes first, right? Max, does that feel fair?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. And then Max kind of fills in the blanks. I basically had come back from Ballymaloe, and I had this
The famous cookery school.
School. And I had this new kind of like life direction that I wanted to go work at a restaurant. But I still didn't even know where I wanted to live. I was either going to move to Providence or I was going to move to New York. I emailed the head chef of the Four Horsemen, and I asked if I could come in for a stage. He said yes.
Of all the restaurants in New York, why'd you pick that one?
Because I had one life-changing meal there 2 years earlier with my brother and actually my ex-boyfriend. And so it was kind of like stuck in my head as like the coolest place one could work at a restaurant in New York City. And by the way, I was not wrong about that. That kind of remains true. I stalked their Instagram and I was like, this is where I'm going to work. This is where I'm going to refine my culinary schools. This is where I'm going to find a community of cool Brooklyn chefs. I emailed the head chef. I asked if I could come in for a stage because I saw an Instagram post that they were hiring. I was very clear in this email that I had never worked at a restaurant. I had just finished this 3-month cookery school course at Ballymaloe. And he said, yes, come on in. And I was a little bit misleading. I basically implied in the email I was living in New York already. That was not true. I had not signed a lease yet. I came in. He told me, just bring your knives. I showed up. I was so nervous. And I remember when I get nervous, I was wearing a hat. and I like pulled the brim of the hat. Like I feel like the top of it was touching my eyebrows. Like eyes were covered basically. And I knocked on the door. The front door of the Horseman was locked. This is like 9 a.m. I was coming in for the lunch shift. That would be when I was doing my stage. This guy who I now know, his name is Ethan. He opens the door. He leads me into the restaurant. If you know the Four Horsemen layout at all, they have a little kitchen in the back that's kind of like exposed to the restaurant. And then downstairs, they have like a bigger prep kitchen. In the little kitchen in the back, there were 2 chefs kind of getting ready for the day, getting their stations prepped. One of them was someone who I recognized from the Instagram because I had done so much stalking, and he had like bleached hair. Shout out Bryce. And the other man was this tall, handsome fellow with a little hoop earring. But I'm like locked in. I'm trying to get this job. So I say hi to both of them. But the tall one was so like smiley. And I was like, he seems friendly. And so I go downstairs, and the first task they have me do is peel garlic. And I'm like, that shouldn't be a problem. Like, I just, did 3 months at cookery school. Let's go. And they give me like a quart container of garlic. And somehow things start going awry. The peels keep sticking to my fingers. I can see like the 2 chefs down, the line cooks down there who are kind of overseeing me. They're looking over. I'm not using a paring knife at this point. I'm just trying to use my fingers to get the peels off. At one point I go, is it okay if the garlic gets a little crushed? And they're like, nope, that's not okay. And I was like, yeah, I wasn't even gonna, yeah, I knew that. And then.
So you couldn't do that classic, like whack it with the knife and the palm of your hand.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's how I've always peeled garlic. Mm-hmm. But we're talking about a Michelin star restaurant. And this is actually, again, this is now probably 9:30. I got there at 9. This is the point where I figured out I was in over my head when they told me the garlic could not be crushed. Yeah, then one of the chefs come over. She says to me, she goes, do you need to borrow a paring knife? And I was like, oh, I have one. And that was kind of embarrassing because it was like her kind of exposing that I was not using the right technique. Not that she was being mean about it at all. And then I'm kind of talking to them, trying to create banter. And they're like, so where did you work before this? And I'm like, nowhere. And they're like, oh. And I could tell there was judgment there. So that made me more nervous. Then the head chef shows up. This is around noon. They had me do a couple other tasks that I did at best mediocre at. And he says, why don't you come up? We're about to start lunch service. This is where the 2 chefs that I was greeted with when I came in, they're still there. He goes, come up. We're going to do lunch service. I want you to observe and try a couple of the plates because famously stage, like you work there all day, but you do not get paid, but they do feed you. So this is where my compensation was coming in. I go up and Max, who I learn his name is Max, he's working the hot side. That's now the name of his very successful Substack.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let me ask where that name came from.
Subtle foreshadow. And he's cooking mackerel that day. And Bryce is there doing desserts and salads, all the cold stuff. I observed for a while. I'm creating banter. Mind you, I'm coming off of like 6 months of globetrotting. I did Ballymaloe. Before that, I got my surf instructor certification in South Africa. And there is something about traveling around, being a little nomadic like that, where you're just like, you're down to banter with anyone. And I think this came off, honestly, to the head chef is a little overly confident and a little bit like, we're not here to yap. Like, this is a serious operation. So that part I do regret, but I was trying to be friendly and I was in this mindset. So he, after probably too much yapping, he's like, why don't you cut this squash? This was early September. So we're in summertime. Squash is in season. It's beautiful. And he gives me 3 squashes and I can't even remember the type, but he tells me, I need you to cut this specific way in perfect cubes. And he demos very quickly, too quickly. And he's like, this is exactly how I need it. And I'm like, you got it. And I swear, as soon as he hands me the knife and I'm standing there, like my mind glitches. I'm like, what did he just do? Oh, I have no idea how he just did that. Like, how did he achieve these perfect cubes? So I'm like hacking at these
Well, keep in mind, I'm watching this all happen too.
Yes.
I have eyes on Lydia. I've clocked her. I know what's going on. And I'm like praying. I'm like, please, come on. You can do this. You can do this.
He's rooting for my success.
And I just see the cubes coming out like pentagon, like crazy shapes. And I just know it's.
So Max is the tall chef, in case that isn't clear to listeners. Anyway, I fill a quart container full of the cubed squash and I show it to the chef. And it's like, he looks at it and he's like, the bottom was his. And then everything above was mine. it looks like an ombre almost. You know what I mean? Like everything, it starts small, just gets bigger and bigger. And he goes, so do you see how mine look like this? And then he points to the top layer and he's like, and yours look like that. And he's like, do you see the difference there? And I'm like, I do. Oh. I can see that. Then the next task is slicing onions, and Max, I have to hand them to Max first because they're for something. I think they're for the mackerel.
Yeah, I think I was like pickling them or something.
Max later told me that he went, before showing it to Chef, he went through and picked out the bad ones. So anyway, I'm at this point, like, I'm not getting this job. This is so embarrassing. I'm told at the end of this section of the afternoon that we're going to go do family meal. They point to Max and they say, Max can show you where they do family meal. And where the Four Horsemen cooks do family meal is in Night Moves, which is like the speakeasy, or what would you,
Bar.
the pub next to the Four Horsemen. So we go up there. I think it was a curry. I'm sitting in a circle with the line cooks. I'm defeated. And I'm also going around. I'm like, so how old are you guys? And at this point, I'm a 28-year-old woman. And they're all like 22. And I'm like, I've just made a fool of myself in front of these, much younger and very talented people. And that, for some reason, was demoralizing because I was going through a phase of life where I'm like, time is running out and I got to do something and I got to figure out my direction. And so, realizing they're all so young and I'm not even gonna, it was just this moment. But then Max is like, oh, I'm 27. I'm like, oh, interesting. He looked like one of the younger ones. So then the sous chef tells me to come downstairs to the office. And in the office, he goes, so you didn't get the job. And I say, no problem. Not a problem at all. But like, frog in my throat, I can feel the tear. I'm an easy crier. And so I'm like, I know I need to get out of here as soon as possible before I burst into tears. So I'm like, thank you so much for this wonderful learning experience. I really appreciate it. I understand I'm just not at the level that you need. I'm going to go change. So I go change out of the chef's whites, put on my clothes. I'm skedaddling as fast as possible. I have to like walk through the whole kitchen. I do like one big wave. I'm like, bye everyone. Great working with you. Go upstairs, walk through the restaurant, leave being like, so sad I can never come back to my favorite restaurant in New York City ever again. Round the corner, sit on a stoop, start bawling. My brother lives in New York. I was squatting in his apartment at the time. He says, let's meet up for dinner. We'll go get ice cream. So I'm standing in line at Cafe Pana in Union Square, line around the block, and I'm opening up my Instagram. And, I don't normally check my message requests, like maybe every few days. And I seldom get a message request from a man. It's almost always women. And I see a Maximilian messaged me, and I click, and I'm like, who's this? And the message is, and I remember it verbatim, it was, hey, it was really nice working with you today. I was really pushing Chef on the hire. It's a bummer it didn't work out. And I'm like, oh, it was the tall, handsome 27-year-old chef with the earring. So I open it, and I was just like honestly touched by the kindness of it after what felt like kind of a humiliating experience. So I respond, yeah, it's too bad. But his mackerel, which I had tried that day while I was up there, talking too much, was delicious. So I tell him, but your mackerel was delicious.
Fire
emoji.
Yeah.
And what I don't know is that Max on the other end is receiving these messages with his best friend Tim next to him and trying to, and maybe Max, this is how you can take over, trying to interpret whether they're flirtatious or not. Because when I opened the message from Max about the stage, if you know Instagram, it showed that not only had he messaged me that day, but a year earlier, this man had messaged me. After I had gone on a hike, he had messaged me a very kind, this was awesome, because I posted how long the hike was. So then it clicked for me while I was standing in line at Cafe Pana. I was like, oh, he had an internet crush on me. I just never thought the line cooks at the Four Horsemen would be, they're not my target audience. I have mostly young women who are into running. That's my audience. So I felt anonymous, totally. I was like, oh, he knew who I was.
Did that make it worse for you?
A little bit, because I'm like, well.
Or did it open up this world of possibility?
It opened up a world of possibility. And it also, I'm like, okay, if he's sending this kind text, it means, yes, he followed me, and that could be embarrassing, but it means he likes me and he appreciates what I put out into the world. So I think ultimately it made me feel good to know this, that he knew who I was.
Max, take it from the top.
Oh, boy.
You're at the Four Horsemen.
I'm at the Four Horsemen, a little hungover. I actually didn't party much at the Four Horsemen, but just so happened the night before was one of those big nights. And I'm slow getting my station set up. I'm like not loving the vibe. And, someone knocks on the door. Ethan's like, oh, there's a stage here today. And I was like, oh boy, like, here we go. Like, this is a lot of work. Ethan comes in, he goes, oh, this is Lydia. And, like Lydia said, she has her hat so low. I think it's a boy. Like, I can't really see her face. And she has her like checkered classic chef pants on, which I thought was so cute.
We were
and funny.
required to wear them at Ballymaloe.
At least they weren't the chef pants with the chili peppers.
Yes. No, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Ballymaloe would never either.
So I thought that was kind of funny. Anyway, she lifts her head up and she goes, hi, I'm Lydia. And immediately when she says that, my heart starts racing. I'm like, what is like Lydia, like running influencer, running a creator Lydia doing here? This is like my internet crush. So I start freaking out. My heart is racing. And, Ethan looks at me and he's like, can tell something's up because I'm like really smiley. I'm giddy. I like could barely get my name out to introduce myself. Somebody eventually brings Lydia downstairs and I turn to Bryce or Ethan and I'm like, dude, something's up. And he's like, what's wrong? What's wrong? And I'm like, I know that girl. And he's like, how do you know her? Like, you didn't seem like you knew her. And I was like, long story, like internet crush. I've been following her for a long time. I don't know why she's here, this and that. So, over the course of like 30 minutes to an hour, we're getting set up. We put some music on. I kind of calmed down. I'm like, all right. I got to compose myself. I got to seem like cool and chill. It all works out. The day goes on. Lydia's downstairs, like she said, doing garlic for an hour or two. Oh, yeah. So I don't see Lydia for a while. So I like calm down. Service starts. I'm in the zone. Like everything's fine. Eventually, like Lydia said, she comes upstairs to do some tasting, to watch the line. And, I kind of get nervous again. I'm like, all right, I got to lock in. I got to look like I know what I'm doing over here. All goes well. And then, Lydia starts doing some tasks. I cook the mackerel. I'm nervous about how the mackerel comes out. Clearly, I think it came out great. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I pick out some onions. I pick out some other things like that to try to make chef really see Lydia's stardom. But unfortunately, it still does not pass the test. And then eventually, I think Lydia goes back down at another point after she's up tasting. And
do you reveal to the head chef and the sous chef that you know who I am?
Well, not at this point. Nick is onto something. He's like, what's going on with you? Like, Nick and I are good friends and he knows what my vibe is and he clearly can tell something's up. But I'm like, oh, nothing. And then, you go downstairs and then Ben, the sous chef at the time, comes up and he holds up his phone with Lydia's profile pulled up and he goes, why the fuck do you follow this girl? And I was like, what are you talking about? Who is that? He's like, Lydia. She has 140,000 Instagram followers or something. Why do you follow her? And I'm like, oh, that's so weird. I have no idea. I must have followed her a long time. Trying to play it off. Eventually I let on like, yeah, I know who this is. I follow her. I have a crush on her and so on, so on. And he's like, oh man, why didn't you say like, let's get you set up. Like whatever. And then the rest of the service goes on. I'm talking to Ben. I go, break down the station, go downstairs and Ben's like, all right, man, I'm going to help you out here. I'm going to help you out. He's like, why don't you show Lydia around, take her to family meal, get her a plate, stuff like that. Like he's trying to get some FaceTime with Lydia for me, which I thought was sweet. So I do. And I make Lydia a plate of food and then we hang out for a bit, have family meal. I've kind of settled in a little bit. I'm like, okay, this girl's cool.
Mm-hmm. She's never getting a job there. Do you know that?
Yeah, when I saw the squash, I knew. Unfortunately, I saw the squash.
Fateful squash.
Everyone honestly was really into Lydia's vibe and energy. Like everyone thought she had a great energy, positive,
Okay.
Like she said,
Lydia's skeptical of this.
Some people thought maybe it was overconfidence, but I was like, no, I think she's just like, has a good personality. And that is a big part of working in restaurants is like, you can't really teach someone how to have a good personality, but you can teach them how to cook. And so I think that's what Nick and people at the Horseman would kind of look for is like people with good personalities that, at least have some baseline of training, but know that they can get them there versus someone who's kind of a pain to have around, but is maybe a great cook. And that's part of the reason why I think people really stay at the Horseman so long and why I stayed there is because it was fun. Like I was going to work with my friends every day and like, it was stressful, but good people.
But she's gone.
She's gone.
You're there with your buddies.
Mm-hmm.
What makes you send that DM?
I was just like, this is my chance. Like there's no, well, basically this is what happens at the end is that Ethan, Lydia goes into the office. I can tell she doesn't get the job. But my friend Ethan's like, oh, can you go in the walk-in and get some things for me? And I kind of knew Lydia was like about the time she was going to be leaving. And I kind of wanted to get in that goodbye.
Because the walk-in, like when you go in there, it's like a walk-in fridge and you're not in the room with everyone else.
Yeah, the door closes behind you. You're in there for good.
No. And if you're on the bear, you're trapped in there forever.
Yeah, exactly. He asked me to get some stuff and I was like hesitant, but I didn't want to seem like a jerk. So I was like, fine, let me get it for you. Like I go in there. Of course, I can't find the onions wherever he's looking for. So I'm in there for like 10 minutes looking for stuff. And I come out and I give him the stuff and I'm like, oh, where's Lydia? He's like, oh, she just left. And I was like, oh no, like that was my opportunity. And it was weird because I was like, did I ask for this girl's number? She was just trying to get a job here. That's so weird. That
was divine intervention though, because like I said, I was on the brink of tears. And if he had come into the changing room and was like, hey, I just wanted to ask, I want to go on a date, I would have been so overwhelmed that I'm a people pleaser, so I'd been like, sure. But I don't think it would have hit me as super sweet and romantic. It would have hit me as overstimulating.
Well, hopefully I would have read that and known not to ask. And maybe just said,
and
nice
you know what?
To meet
you do have good social skills, so I would.
So Lydia leaves, and then I'm like, I got to shoot my shot. Like, I'm never going to run into this person again. She's my internet crush, and here's my in. Like, we just hung out all day, basically. So I send her this message, a little sweet little message, and she responds. I can't remember how quickly he responded, but it was pretty quick. It was that night. And yeah, at that point, I'm at my brother's house with one of my best friends, and I'm like, I tell them the whole story. I'm like, my heart's racing again. My heart's racing right now. I'm like, it was really like an adrenaline rush, and I was really excited but nervous. And classic boys, they're like, you got to hit her with the follow, unfollow. So you come up at the top of her feed, like, so she sees
Wait,
her.
I don't even know about this. The follow, unfollow.
It's like, so if you're following someone already, you unfollow them, then you follow them again so that like it shows up in the activity feed. You're like at the top, like, oh, this person just followed you. So I tried that. Lydia has way too many followers to ever see that anyway. So it didn't quite work. But the DM, I guess she got the DM. We responded. We go back and forth a little bit. I can't tell if she's flirting or not. I asked my coworkers. I'm like, they're like, she's out of your league. There's no way like she's flirting with you. And I'm like, really? I don't think anyone's sending that many emojis. But
I was sending emojis.
Lo and behold, she was flirting. So they were wrong and I was right.
Wow, I've learned so much from this conversation, the follow and the unfollow. And
I didn't know that
emojis equal flirting?
Emojis definitely equal super friendly.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll be right back with today's guests. Today's episode is presented by the cookbook Family Style by Peter Somm. From culinary creator, lifestyle expert, and award-winning fashion designer Peter Somm, Family Style is a beautiful cookbook featuring more than 100 recipes with unique and creative flavor combinations, paying homage to Peter's identity, heritage, and family. There are beloved nods to his grandma's Cantonese flavor profiles, his mom's deep love of French food, his Bay Area upbringing, and desserts that are not too sweet, the highest compliment in his family. For Peter, nothing is quite as satisfying as the moment when everyone is gathered around the table and platters of food are set down for everyone to dig into together. The Family Style Cookbook is perfect for an everyday meal at home, but it's also sophisticated, elegant, and visually stunning. Needless to say, it makes for a great gift. Some standout recipes: burnt miso cinnamon toast, crispy deviled tea eggs, radicchio and fennel salad with creamy miso maple dressing, cacio e pepe sticky rice with egg, and lychee lime pavlova. Pick up a copy of the Family Style Cookbook by Peter Somm at your favorite indie bookstore. We love Peter here at Cherry Bombe, and I really think you're going to love his cookbook.
You studied lots of different things, cognitive science and journalism, and then you wound up in Hollywood, and then you become a running influencer, and you go to Ballymaloe, and you're back in New York. So I was like, wow, like you definitely have not had a linear path.
No.
When you were at Yale, what did you think you wanted to do?
Well, I didn't know for a while, but then my senior spring, I took a class called comedy writing, and we were pretty much writing short stories and short essays that were comedic. And I loved the class. It was taught by a man named Ryan Wepler. And that gave me this like real sense of clarity that I had for the first time in college, that I wanted to write comedy. And kind of the only industry I could think of where there was a viable career there was the TV and film industry. And then I didn't know anyone who worked that industry, but I called like friends of friends who put me in touch with cousins who, worked in the industry, and everyone's advice kind of landed at the same place, which is go work at a talent agency. There's CAA, WME, UTA. Those are the three that you should aim for, and go be an assistant for 2 years. And that's like the grad school of entertainment. So that's what I ended up doing. I went and I was pushing around the mail cart at WME. That was my first job, and then got promoted to a desk and was an assistant to a lovely man named Dan Limerick, who was actually not even an agent. He was the head of business affairs. But I sat next to all the TV agents, so soaked in a lot of knowledge. That's what I thought I was going to do.
Were you funny?
Yeah. I wanted to be a TV writer, and I was working as assistant. So I was like, how do I make these jumps? And the advice then that I kept getting was, you should go test your material at open mics. And I was like, no, I'm not a performer. I want to be a writer. Like, I thought there was something really like cool about being like, I don't want to be on screen. Like, it almost was cliche to move to LA and be like, get on stage. But everyone kept saying, go test your material. And then I went through kind of a breakup, and that I had delayed going on to an open mic for a whole year. And I just like found myself driving there after the breakup. You know, it was a phase of like, I'm going to be the woman I've always wanted to be. So I went to this open mic and I bombed. But then I just kept going back, and I fell in love with the community. Those people became my friends. And stand-up is like going to the gym. You just do your reps, and you find your rhythm, and you figure out what lines get laughs, and you slowly start building a tight 3, and then that becomes a tight 5, and then you have shows.
What's a tight 3?
Like 3 minutes of stand-up comedy. That's your show. You know, in the beginning, your show is 3 minutes. Because every stand-up, I mean, besides the crowd work, their hour is memorized. That's like a script that has been written down. I'm sure that, you know, they have a notes apps or Word docs. That is the script. At least for me, that's how my stand-up worked. And that definitely made me funnier. Actually, last night I was having a conversation where someone was like, I think all stand-up comedians are miserable. And I was like, well, for my stint, I mean, there's a lot of mental health issues there. But my stint in stand-up, it's kind of like gratitude journaling, where like when you write, like every day you start with gratitude, then you kind of go through the day and you notice more things you're grateful for because you've primed your brain to be in that mode. When I was every day looking for material to write jokes, I was noticing funny stuff everywhere. I think life was funnier when I was trying to do stand-up.
You have such a bright personality.
Thank you. I mean, I do struggle with mental health stuff.
Yeah.
So, you know, that was on the other side of things.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
I found this Substack piece you wrote about hypnosis.
And
the pink elephant, because I wasn't sure how you got into running.
Uh-huh.
And you had talked about having anxiety and wanting to deal with that. So you thought hypnosis might be an option. That was an interesting story.
Yeah.
But then ultimately running proved to be the thing that helped you.
Yeah. So I did hypnosis unsuccessfully like 2 years ago. And at that point I rowed in college, and it was a D1 program, and it was very all-consuming. And by my senior year, I was so burnt out from rowing. And we did 2-day practices all year round for 4 years. And so I rowed, and I was really burnt out. And by NCAA's my senior year, I finished the last race, had a really disappointing national championship race. So it was like kind of ending on a low note with my career. And I like loathed my coach at that point. My team had a bit of a toxic culture. And I was like, not only am I done with rowing, but I am done with working out. This has taken up my life. It has flattened my personality. I have all these other interests I haven't been able to explore. And so then I didn't work out for that was in June until around September. And at that point, I had made this move to LA. I was like, whoa, my brain was used to getting its double hit of endorphins every day. And now it's not getting that. And I don't feel like myself. I feel depressed. And I lived in Playa del Rey, which is right along the beach in LA. It's near the airport. I was like, I'm going to go for a run. And it was a very slow run. It was a casual run. But I felt much more like myself afterwards. I felt better. I felt happier. I got that endorphins that, you know, I had become so used to. And I think like biological, I'm not a doctor, but I do think like my body was used to that.
But you did study cognitive science.
I did. Took one neuroscience class. Challenging. So then I just started running casually, and then I had an old teammate who lived up in the Bay Area, and she was like, I'm going to do this trail marathon. Do you want to do it with me? And I had all this, you know, even though I hadn't worked out for 2 months, I had underlying fitness that was still there from collegiate rowing. And so I was like, sure, I'll do that. And that was my first marathon was the trail marathon in the Marin Headlands in 2017. And that kind of kicked off what has, since I'm 31 now, has become a decade of marathon running. I'm running my 9th marathon in April, the Paris Marathon. It's a huge part of my life, and then became a huge part of my career because I started sharing it online.
Yeah, changed your life.
Changed my life, for sure. I'm so grateful for running. And I actually had the thought the other day that I have been running now about as long as I rode. And I always thought rowing was like the sport that really defined me, but now running equally defines me. More of my identity is wrapped up in that than it is rowing anymore.
It's so interesting how much resilience shows up in all your stories.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Sometimes I choose to do like hard things, and then I'm currently in this training block for Paris. I'm like, what? Why again am I doing this?
Because it's Paris. My gosh.
It is, yes. Oui. Yeah.
We'll talk about the Paris plans in a little bit. All right, Max, how did you become a chef?
My first cooking job was straight out of college, which many people ask if I went to culinary school. I did not.
What did you study at college?
American history, essentially, American studies. And I went to Occidental in Los Angeles. And I got out of college and I was like, what do I do with this degree? A lot of people go into law or become teachers, and I didn't really want to do either of those things. So I was like, all right, I need money. So let me go do something that feels kind of familiar. And my last year of college, I lived off campus and I cooked all of my meals, which was very new because of college. Everyone has a meal plan. And I got really into cooking. And my mom's a great cook, and, I've been around good food. My dad works in the food industry his whole life. So, I've been around food and it felt comfortable. And everyone kept hyping up my food. They come over, eat some food. This is amazing, this and that. And, I really enjoyed it. I just got into this cooking. I started a little cooking Instagram, which had no followers. It was just for me to keep a little diary.
College.
This was in college. It was Hottie Cooks was the name of my Instagram.
HOTTIE?
Yeah, Cooks. I might be disabled now. It might still be up, but I might have made it private. But it was really just for me to see what I'm cooking, keep track of it. Yeah, so I get out of college and I'm looking around to try to get jobs. I have no official experience at this point. And I applied to, I think, 7 or 8 restaurants in LA and get denied from every single one of them.
Did you stage at them?
Some of them took a stage. Some were just we're not interested. And I was kind of surprised. I was I thought cooking was supposed to be an entry-level job. Especially, I wasn't even going to nice restaurants. I was just going to restaurants I liked around LA, but no Michelin stars or anything like that. Just sandwich shops and little fast casual kind of places. Anyway, I had some trouble. And then one place, it was called Monte 52. It doesn't exist anymore, sandwich shop. And it was inside a little grocery store. And I worked there for a year, I think. They gave me the job on the spot, and I feel like I had to take it. So I took it. I think it was $15 an hour or something. And I was making breakfast burritos. The breakfast burrito rush on a Saturday, Sunday morning was crazy. And I would be making 100 breakfast burritos a day. And sandwiches, salads with
Wait,
soups.
you got to tell us what's the secret to a great breakfast burrito.
Because
they're just better in LA.
Yeah, they are. Ours had this cheese sauce, which was just a ton of cheese and milk and maybe some milk powder or something like that. I wasn't really into that. That was kind of dirty calories, whatever you want to call it. But it did make it taste good. Sometimes people would ask it without the cheese sauce and it would just be egg, and it wasn't as good. So maybe the cheese sauce made a lot of cheese.
American cheese?
I'm trying to remember,
real
but it was
cheese?
a real mix. It was cheddar, American, provolone, a whole mix of cheeses. You make a roux. It's you're making mac and cheese essentially, but you take that cheese sauce, put it into the eggs.
That does sound good.
Oh, you put it into the eggs?
Oh yeah, you put it into the eggs while you're cooking it, and that makes super creamy and gooey. And then I think there were peppers and onions in it, and then maybe some salsa, some fried potatoes.
And I want that right now.
Yeah, it was really good.
Avocado,
best bacon. Oh man, people
there.
used to do the supreme. They bacon, avocado, and sausage in one burrito, and it would be huge. So I worked there for a year, and
what'd you learn?
I learned that cooking in restaurants was not a glorious life. I wasn't making very much money. Thankfully, my rent at the time, believe it or not, was $700 a month. I learned, how to prep. There was no prep team. So all the line, there was only 3 or 4 of us working there. It was a small spot. We did all the prep, all the cooking, all the cleaning. And once a week, we would alternate doing a dish pit station shift. So I did a lot of dishes. But for me, I like the dish pit. I put the music on or a podcast, and I just wash dishes for hours. And I like washing dishes.
Max is a very clean man. He cleans our house. I'm gone for 2 hours. I come back. Our house is pristine. He's an unbelievable cleaner.
You're a keeper, Max.
Yes.
I love cleaning.
I'm still, all these years later, trying to remember clean as you go.
Yeah.
If you can master clean as you go, the world is unlocked to you in some way. Yeah.
My parents' home has a very small kitchen. So clean as you go is always very important. And my dad and my mom both stand by that. It's still hard though when there are 4 kids all trying to cook different things and be in the kitchen at the same time. It's kind of like a 2-person kitchen. But
all right, so LA, how do you wind up here in New York?
that was a COVID thing.
You followed Lydia. No.
You knew where I was.
I left that job, and I can't remember why I left, but I ended up leaving, and I went to go look for another job, and I got a job at this place called Joy, which was on York in Eagle Rock, and right next to Oxy is a place I'd applied to originally before I got the job at Monte 52, and didn't get the job the first time. Second time around, got the job, and I worked there for about a month or a month and a half, and then COVID happened, and restaurants started doing only takeout originally, and it was kind of this weird thing where really in the first couple of days, this was before people really thought it was like in the U.S. or anything, and then people started getting sick, and they were like, okay, I think we're going to maybe switch to only takeout. It seems like that's what other people are doing. We're going to need you only for 3 days a week instead of 5. And I was like, okay, we'll figure it. I thought this was going to blow over, 2 weeks, kind of like just everyone else did. About a week later, they're like, yeah, we don't need you anymore. We don't need you anymore because we're going down to like 3 staff because it's strict laws, all this stuff like that. So anyway, I quickly lost that job and, went on unemployment because I was like, it's impossible. I can't get another cooking job at this point. And my lease was up in, I think, 2 months. So I waited the 2 months in LA, kind of tried to figure things out. And then eventually it was like, I'm not re-signing a lease. Let me move back home. And so I moved back home to Nyack, and all my siblings and everyone, they all moved back home with their parents. I started doing some remote work, food photography, and like recipe development for this grain company called Yolele, which makes fonio, or they harvest fonio.
African grain, right? An African grain.
Yes. So I did that for about a year. Unfortunately, got fired from that job. Then once restaurants kind of started opening back up, I worked with a pop-up called Hasdakbiet, and I worked with them kind of on and off for like 4 or 5 years. But at the time, I was still like, keep in mind, not very good at cooking. When I started with them, I was working front of house, and I think I worked 2 front of house shifts doing their pop-up, and I think it was clear to everyone that I was not good at it. I'm just like not a people person sometimes.
How'd you get the horseman job?
Well, I worked with St. Anthony for, those years, and the Four Horsemen.
Multiple years. So you were there a few years.
Yeah, well, we did pop-ups. Like we did one in Paris. We moved around the city a lot, and, they were always doing events, so I was helping them there. And then we did a pop-up downtown in Chinatown for like 4 months or something. And so we were open full-time there. And that's kind of really, really started to develop this like confidence a little bit where I was like, okay, I can cook. I know how to cook. They were kind of hyping me up every now and then, being like, you're doing so well. Like you're growing, you're learning. Like we really trust your palate, all this kind of stuff. And it was like, I was like, wow, I'm really like doing this. And that's when those like hours really come in and give you that confidence, just like anything else.
At any point, did you think maybe I should go to culinary school?
There's this restaurant in my hometown called Olar, and the chef, ever since I was a kid, we'd go there for birthdays, anniversaries, celebrations, stuff like that. And he has always told me, never go to culinary school. You're just going to waste your time. Sure, you'd learn all these things, but like, just go work in a restaurant. You're going to make money and you'll learn a lot. And I kind of feel that way still. I'm like, you can go to culinary school and learn a lot and it can give you some baseline confidence. But if you were to just go in a restaurant, start, even in a sandwich shop, work there for a year, and then, you make your money and then go work somewhere harder and you'll learn so much, and maybe not as diverse, but like you'll get that confidence and connections just as easily. And I think, depends who you are. Some people want it, some people don't. I already had gone to college and I was like, I don't want to do this all over again. St. Anthony, favorite restaurant, Four Horsemen at the time. They're always hyping it up. It was in Williamsburg. It's expensive. I didn't have a lot of money, and I just kind of never made it around to it. And when I was looking for a job, they're like, you should try the Four Horsemen. And it's like Michelin star. I kind of always told myself, I don't want to be a Michelin star cook. Like, I don't want to work in that space. It's too like hardo, like too intense. I like the vibe of St. Anthony, pop up, chill, fun, finish the shift with a glass of wine kind of thing. And I was like, that's not going to happen in a Michelin star restaurant. So I kind of put it off. Anyway, for the heck of it, I applied. My brother used to, slightly date this girl, Ava, who, shout out Ava, now owns Rude Mouth Wine Bar in Williamsburg. And that was many, many years ago. And when I applied, she saw the email and she was like, Baroni, I recognize that name. And she passed the resume on to the chefs. And so she was kind of my in, but unknowingly, I didn't know she worked there. I went in for my stage and was really nervous, so nervous. And, did okay, I guess. I came back for a second day, did okay. They offered me the job. And I was excited, but so scared because it was intimidating. Like the people that worked there were very good at their jobs. And, I was still kind of new to cooking in a way. Even after years, it's still scary. It was small and operated really well. And for the first probably 6 months that I worked there, I was scared every day going into work. Well, not necessarily from the chef, but this guy, Zach, who's an amazing chef, worked above me, was on me every day about everything, always telling me to hit the next gear. He's like, you're in first gear, I need you in sixth gear. Like, you're way too slow, man. Keep going. Keep going. And he pushed me, sometimes kind of a jerk, but, he pushed me to be better, and it worked.
Like a coach.
Yeah, kind of like a coach. And I would say I'm someone who can kind of take that in a way where I don't really get offended.
So, Lydia, you decided to do the opposite kind of. You did go to culinary school.
Mm-hmm.
You decided to go to Ballymaloe, as we mentioned earlier, the famous cookery school in County Cork that
Yes.
we're all obsessed with.
Yep.
Why did you decide to go to culinary school, and why Ballymaloe?
It was more why Ballymaloe because my best friend from college, she went there right after graduating. She kind of took this amazing, I guess, gap year, but I think people traditionally think of that as before college. And it started with her doing the fall term at Ballymaloe, which starts in, I think, September and it goes through December. And then she did the thing that Ballymaloe kind of encourages, because they have a day where they kind of give a lecture on like, what can you do after this? What are your options? Catering, working in a restaurant, or being a private chef. And there was like a pipeline of Ballymaloe students who went in private chefed at ski chalets in, I think, the Italian Alps. So like very wealthy people who rented out a whole house, also wanted a chef, and Ballymaloe students would go be that chef. And I don't think it paid very well, but you got to be in the Italian Alps. And I think it was really hard work. So my friend Alex did that. And I think this was verbatim how she described Ballymaloe, one of the most magical places on earth. And for listeners who don't know, Ballymaloe is located in coastal Southern Ireland, and the school itself is on an organic farm. So there's really nothing, and it's a very well taken care of organic farm with a palais de poulettes and really cute pigs that do get eaten. And
That's a palace for the chickens.
Yes, the palais de poulettes. And there's always baby cows. And there's a rose garden and a maze and a little structure made entirely of seashells. It's magical. And sure enough, when I showed up, I was like, yep, it is magical. So I had been living at home, had been influencing, content creating, whatever you want to call it, for at that point, 1.5 years. I had ended up doing my MFA at BU, but that was a fully funded program. So got paid to be a student there. And then I did have to teach undergrads one semester. But expenses were low. Income was coming in. I found myself sitting on this money. Also found myself being like, I got to go do something with my life. Like COVID had kept me sequestered. I extended that kind of insular lifestyle for a couple years. I don't know.
It's hard to shake that mindset.
It really was.
Yeah.
And I was so comfortable, though I was so devastated about COVID because at the time when it happened in March 2020, I was felt like my comedy and stand-up career was kind of taking off. And so it felt really devastating, like the universe was shutting that down. I have this like low-grade anxiety that kind of cropped up during COVID, and I need to shake it. And so the only way I can see myself shaking it is doing something really adventurous. And so I cooked up this plan to go to South Africa for 3 months and then fly from Durban to Cork, Ireland. And that's exactly what I did through Dubai. And so I went there without any agenda to be a professional chef. But then when I got there, I was like, oh, this is a very serious culinary course. And I need to lock in because people are here to like go on and work in Michelin star restaurants. People are here with restaurant experience. And all of, we live in cottages on the property, and obviously you become very close with your classmates. My cohort was like 60 people of all, ranging from 18 years old to, I think the oldest lady was 80.
The amazing thing about Ballymaloe is you encounter all these people who are Irish icons. Like they're the Martha Stewarts and the Inas of Ireland, like Darina Allen.
Yeah, she was my neighbor.
Wow.
We lived in the cottages right next to Darina and Tim's house.
Darina, who we love, who's been on the podcast a few times. Her brother, Rory O'Connell, who I adore. I mean, just so many incredible people.
Yes. Yeah. And Rachel. Darina's daughter-in-law.
Did you meet J.R. Ryle?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. J.R. was just on the show last week.
Oh, cool. He was in New York?
He was in New York.
Oh, nice.
He did a pop-up at King.
Oh, very cool. Oh, shoot. I wish I had gone. Yeah. Because one of the things students could do was go stage at Ballymaloe House, which is the famous hotel that is a couple miles down the road. And they have a Michelin star, I'm pretty sure. And so we had the opportunity as students to stage at that restaurant. And then actually every cohort, there's like one or two people who do stay around and go work at that restaurant. And there was also the opportunity to stage under JR, but I never did that. But his pastry, obviously, he's a mastermind.
He's amazing. Yeah. So you had never been until the Kerrygold press trip, right?
No, never.
The first time I saw it was on a Kerrygold press trip in 2019, and I actually cried. It was so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
It's exactly what Lydia was saying. It is a magical place. And we just really lucked out and had spectacular weather the whole time. I think we did too on our trip.
It was glorious.
Mm-hmm.
Spectacular weather. I just was so overcome. I may have also seen a kitten. I'm trying to remember.
Oh.
I was so overcome by all the things you're talking about, the maze and the herb garden and the chickens and the greenhouse. And Max, I know you were like, I need to see this place Lydia keeps talking about.
Oh my God, she talked so much about it.
It was formative.
I was ready to see this place. And I was blown away. It was really spectacular.
Yeah.
Very picturesque. And then you got the Irish Sea right there. We went for a swim. Or is it the Celtic Sea?
It's actually the Celtic Sea. I was calling it the Irish Sea, but it is the Celtic Sea.
Yeah.
I had a romance at Ballymaloe. And he was a Brit, and he happened to be one of the few students with a car. He had a van on the property because most of us didn't have any way to leave the grounds. So we were really in the middle of nowhere, which I will say by the end, like, you were ready to go. Because even to get to Middleton, where you could do your grocery shopping, because as students, we were in charge of feeding ourselves on the weekends, you had to call the one guy in town, Mike, Mike from Ballycotton, and we had to WhatsApp him and he would pick us up. But like, you always had to coordinate with 5 other students because he would charge 50 euros flat to take us 20 minutes, which like
Mike might have picked me up at the train station once.
Yeah.
I think I remember Mike.
I really like Mike. It was always an effort to get away. As much it was a perfect place. Like, you still wanted to kind of like sometimes get out, and it did feel a little bit claustrophobic at times. But anyway, Louis was his name. He was a cottage mate of mine, so a little messy. But he had a van, and we were friends with everyone in our cottage. But so as a group, we would often, after class, which would end around 5, but the sun didn't set until 10 p.m., drive to Ballycotton and go swimming in the Celtic Sea. And it was always the perfect temperature. It was cold, but you wanted it to be cold because you felt like you had like layers of bacon grease on you after cooking all day. Oh, God, those were magical times. I just feel so lucky to have that experience.
Mm-hmm. I feel that way about Ireland in general. I've only been 3 times and just constantly plotting, like, when can I go back?
Mm-hmm.
Max, what was your favorite part of the trip?
Favorite part of the trip, I really enjoyed the factory, believe it or not. I thought that was really cool, and like seeing that process. And I'd never been inside like a production factory like that before. And I recently went on an olive oil trip, similar. And I like seeing like the back end of that and seeing how it all works. And I don't know, maybe one day I build a brand or something like that. And I think that is very like important to see how these companies work. And I also love the cows, the little picnic at, I can't remember the gentleman's house that hosted us.
Oh, we had so much fun there.
The scones. So,
the butter.
And that glass house that they had.
Mm-hmm. I think I had like 15 scones that day. I mean, I was plump.
Yeah, happiest cows I've ever met.
Yeah.
Those cows were joyful.
You got covered in a little poop too. Right?
Yeah, I did get some cow poop on my very nice Japanese jeans.
I'm grateful for those short wellies that they gave us. Yeah. I wore those a lot this winter.
Yeah.
Actually. They came in handy.
I didn't put them on, and that was a mistake. I was wearing my Blundstones.
Oh, yikes.
Yeah.
Okay. The same ones?
No, these are new. I got these. Not these. Don't worry.
I was guessing you would have cleaned them by now.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about influencing, because you two are influencers. I don't know if you like that term or not. Lydia, you wrote a really interesting piece for Slate. It's been 4 years since you wrote this piece titled, "I'm an Influencer and I Think Social Media is Toxic."
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was so interesting because, so many of us today, especially if you're in media and doing what you two do, your life revolves around things like Instagram and TikTok, and everybody seems to have a love-hate relationship with both. And I was just curious, how has your thinking on that topic evolved?
Well, it's interesting. I would have to reread the essay to fully re-understand what my thesis statement was. But I think if my memory serves me correctly, the broad strokes were that I was saying social media was toxic, mostly from the perspective of the consumer, like the people consuming social media that has been curated, airbrushed, and this is pre-AI, to perfection is dangerous, at the time, unfortunately, my mom's dear friend had just lost his daughter to suicide, and they basically linked a lot of her mental health issues, or the parents kind of suspected it was a lot due to social media, which is so sadly not a singular case.
Uh-huh.
I was writing a lot from that perspective, and, so much has happened in the digital landscape in 4 years. And now when I still think social media is toxic is the short answer. But now when I think of it, yes, that's also still true. Like young people, young impressionable audiences are consuming basically fake content, and it's informing their sense of self and, fostering insecurities that are super dangerous, sometimes deadly. That's still true, and that's terrible. But I also think where social media has evolved to the point where every part of our lives, because there's this push to be content creators, can be exploited for content. There's now a really sick culture of exploiting ourselves. And I think I come to this question a lot when I am trying to figure out what to film and what to share and what to expose of myself. Peeling back layers and layers, the more vulnerable I am, the better the content will do. But I'm exploiting myself. And that is why when I think of the toxic nature of the internet, I'm often thinking now how toxic it is for creators. And many people are creators now.
Are you posting less? I feel like I noticed that you're posting a little bit less.
Yeah, I mean, my dad went through some health stuff at the beginning of the year, and that kind of I found it very difficult to exist online and that's unfortunate. It is my job. I felt it challenging to exist online while dealing with some of the stuff that was challenging. He's actually okay now. He just got a surgery and it went really, really well. So that's all good. But I think I pulled back for that reason. But also at the start of every year, I have this sort of navel gazing moment where I'm like, I want to exist online on my terms. Not as what's going to catch the eye of brands, not what's going to be most viral, but when I open my pages, I'm proud of how I represent myself. And I'm proud of what I'm saying. And that kind of negotiation with myself always makes me take a pause from social media, because I feel what ends up happening is I get a little paralyzed about what I post because I put so much weight on it being is this something I'm really proud of? And so the combined personal issues family stuff I was going through, and then also putting so much weight on what I post and it being something that I'm proud of has made me kind of post less. But
at the same time, you are also building an offline community.
Yes.
Tell us about Goodstory.
Yeah, thank you for asking. I have definitely this past year put a lot more into in-person events. Going back to this conversation of is social media toxic? It makes us so lonely as a collective, and the antidote to loneliness, in my mind, is getting together and look at each other in the eye. And as a running creator, there's kind of this obvious in-person event I could host, which is a run club. But I have this history as a performer, briefly on stage as a stand-up comedian, as a writer, getting my MFA in creative writing, specifically in fiction. And I've always wanted to blend those two and figure out a way to create something where those two interests come together. And for me, with my writing at least, movement is so integral to my creative process. If I feel stuck, I go for a walk or I go for a run. I go do yoga. I know I'm not alone there. So yeah, I came up with this idea of Goodstory Run Club, which is we do a loop in Prospect Park. It's a monthly run club. And then we run from Prospect to Rodeo, which is about 0.8 miles away from the park, to Crown Heights. And we do a storytelling open mic.
So everybody runs. They're all sweaty and tired, breathless.
Yep.
And do an open mic.
Yeah. There's a brief 10-minute period where I'm everyone get a drink. We're going to gather, because Rodeo has this amazing backroom area. They have the bar and then this backroom area where a lot of DJs do sets. But on a Monday or Tuesday, it's Goodstory Run Club.
And the print magazine component, how's that going?
Well, I had a dream to create a fun literary magazine. Traditionally, a literary magazine, I'm talking the Paris Review, the Kenyon Review, features fiction, poetry, and nonfiction, and then sometimes some art, some other things. And I have submitted my writing to many, many literary magazines and almost always gotten rejected. And there's a stiffness. It's almost harder to get published in a literary magazine than it is to get a novel published. It's super competitive. Yeah, I wanted to make a fun literary magazine where the nonfiction basically featured written versions of the stories that have been told at Goodstory Run Club. I already knew there's been some stories, and Max can attest to this, told at Goodstory Run Club that have been phenomenal. True performers and writers have showed up, and they have just captivated the room. And so for those, and there's always, almost every mic, there's one. I reached out to them directly and asked, would you be interested in writing this out? It probably already is written out and being featured in my print magazine that I'm making, and all of them have agreed. So there's about 7 essays. And then I opened it up to fiction, and that's been more of a traditional. People have submitted their fiction through a portal, and poetry as well. But there's a crossword. There's a cootie. Do you know a cootie catcher? Like you fold
I didn't know
it,
that's what it's called, but yeah.
And then you flip it. Yes, there's a cootie catcher. There's recipes. Max
Forgot about that.
Yeah, it has citrus
Did
salad.
you turn in your recipes? Yeah, already?
Yeah, it's just
Good.
one, right?
It's 2.
Oh.
It's the salmon pasta.
Ooh.
Yeah, really good. And the
Citrus salad.
citrus salad. Yeah.
Very cool.
So
Yum.
there's some fun recipes.
Very cool. Max, let's talk about your videos. You are such a natural teacher. Your videos are a joy to watch. Did you know you had that inside you?
Maybe a little bit, in the sense of like, later into the Horseman, when I started teaching other people and training other people, I felt like I had that quality, and I kind of realized that quality. But I was never really a media person. Like, I always liked taking photographs and like artistic stuff like that, but I was never a video maker. And it really wasn't until, Lydia kind of taught me how to do this that I started making those videos. And I struggled at first. They didn't really connect with people, I feel like, the first time around I tried to do this, and I gave up, and there was a long period where I just kind of like moseyed around and did odd jobs, and then kind of tried again, and it worked out. And I think the second time around, I tried to care less and not be too serious, and, kind of just like let my personality be there and be present and not try too hard. And
Is it that thing where people say not that anything either of you do is cringy, but that you have to just get past the cringe of putting yourself out there?
Totally. You can't try to be someone you're not, because I think people can tell through the internet.
Sniff it out.
Yeah, they can sniff it out. And I think it's also, then you're like acting, every time you make a video versus just like what you'd be like without the camera there. And it becomes a lot easier, and it's a lot easier to be creative, and it's fun. I feel like that teaching element is kind of part of who I am, I guess. And it wasn't really coming out the first time around because I was trying to do something I really wasn't, maybe.
What video popped for you?
I think it was my second video. It was a salmon curry, or like a coconut salmon. It wasn't even like curry. It was just like ginger. I think I did some tomatoes, fish sauce, sugar, and onions maybe, or something. And then I just spooned that over some rice and a piece of salmon, or poached salmon or something. Yeah, I think that hit 100,000 views or something in like 2 days. And I was like, whoa. Because previously my videos had gotten 10,000 views with a little help from Lydia reposting. She gave me a couple extra views.
Are you having fun with your Substack?
Yeah, my Substack is definitely
Hot Side.
I don't think people really understand what that name is, but yeah, that's
Is that a tribute? Is that a tribute to?
That is a tribute to my time on Hot Side, because I worked that station for over a year at the
I thought it was tribute to when you met.
Oh.
Well, that was just the name. No, I think it was like...
It's got multiple meanings.
Yeah. Hot Side was like the name of the station he was at, which is, correct me if I'm wrong, Max, the kind of the most senior line cook station you can be.
I would say that and middle.
Oh,
so
okay.
basically the hot side is you work the little grill, and then you work the oven. So you do like all the big proteins for the most part. And then middle was the other station, which was often like any like rice dishes or pastas, or like sometimes crudo. And then garde manger was like salads and other crudos and other cold dishes. But it really depended, but I would say hot side is probably the most difficult, in the sense of like cooking proteins they have to be perfect, and, it's important.
My one piece of unsolicited advice for your Substack, not even advice, but just something like, as a fan, I would love to see more of, a little bit more in your head notes.
Yeah, I just get kind of lazy. I'm like, here's the recipe and here's a tip or two, but I know I could write more. I think I haven't found that voice, or I'm like, for me, I'm like, do people want that? Like, it's good to hear that, but I'm like, for most people, if I'm going to a recipe, I'm going to like, all right, give me the ingredients,
Talk to me about Paris, my favorite place, in addition to Ireland. Max, do you have a whole list of places you're going to, well, first off, are you going to go cheer on Lydia?
Of course. My whole family actually is going as well, and her family. So it's going to be a big party.
It's going to be a family affair.
That's awesome.
So, now that I think about it, I'm like, I don't know where we could even get a table for 12 of us. I'm thinking about this. I will plan ahead. I'd say there's one place, Bistro Paul Bert, always a classic. Definitely got to go for lunch.
Yeah.
So I think I'll try to make that reservation for us. And besides that, early June, that's where we did the pop-up when I was there in Paris with Hashtag Biet. And that's always a fun place, rotating chefs. So I was thinking about doing a pop-up there while I was there. But that got a little complicated. I thought be taking away from Lydia's experience.
I was encouraging you to do
Yeah, I know you were, but I'm like, I would be busy for 4 full days then. And I know she'd want to do stuff. I want to be cheering her on. Like, I just thought that was the focus of the trip. And also part of like, that's a lot of work. And I was being lazy.
Well, I would love to also see your Paris list from both of you. All the places you want to hit when you're there.
This is a very good question, Carrie, because we haven't put one together. So you're incentivizing me to go home. And we got to, and I didn't even clock. Yeah, this is going to be
a doozy of a list. Yeah. A Dandelion, I think, is a restaurant I've been hearing a lot about. My friend Ethan, who actually was the one that talked to Lydia first at the Horseman, is working at a restaurant out there now. So we're definitely going to have to go there. It's kind of a fancy
it's tough
restaurant.
When you're a big group.
Yeah, we might have to just like.
Paris isn't really about lots of people descending on one place, but you'll figure it out.
Yeah, maybe we'll just do like one big dinner.
You can also crowdsourse.
Mm-hmm.
People love to share.
They do.
Their favorite places.
Yeah.
Who's got the connect for a table of 12?
Slide into their DMs and make sure you put some emojis in them. Okay, let's do a speed round because we have completely run out of time. Okay, what we'll do, Lydia, then Max. Beverage you start your day with?
Coffee.
How do you take it?
I do like a nice cortado. Yeah.
And you have all your powders and gels. Do you put anything in your coffee?
If I'm going to run, I will add whey protein and creatine to it because I've read that it's good to have some protein and some carbs in your body. Oh, and I'll put a little maple syrup. So the maple syrup is the carbs.
Yum.
But if I'm not running, just classic cortado with whole milk.
And I do exactly the same thing. Iced cortado.
Do you have a favorite cookbook?
Well, Natasha Piekowitz is More Than Cake. I love that cookbook. I also was just cooking from Alison Roman's Dining In, which I loved. I made an amazing salad. Her recipe turned out great. The grapefruit fennel salad that she has in there was delish.
That was so good.
Max, favorite cookbook?
Jelena was one of the first cookbooks I ever got. And still to this day, I think a lot of those recipes are similar to my cooking in the way they're very approachable. They're simple and good palate, good flavor.
Have you two been approached to write cookbooks yet?
I have, kind of in the works of some talks, trying to figure it out. You know, it's a daunting task. I'd say I'm excited about it, but it definitely is going to be like content or a cookbook kind of thing. So I'm still trying to build a little bit more before I launch into that.
I was going to say, it's still so early in your career too.
Yeah.
Okay, most used kitchen tool?
Bench scraper.
A bench scraper.
Oh, you love that. She loves a bench scraper.
I do. I think a cast iron skillet. Yeah.
For me, I would say a spoon or a big mixing bowl.
Oh, you love those metal mixing
bowls. I can't get enough of them.
Watching the videos, I was like, I got to get to one of the restaurant supply shops and pick up some aluminum bowls.
I think it is. Wimco.
That I think should be your brand if you ever do become an entrepreneur.
That and like those little
Stainless
sizzle
steel
trays.
bowls.
Everyone wants the sizzle trays too.
Wait, what's a sizzle tray? Like fajita?
No, sizzle tray is like a little stainless steel tray that you use in kitchens to like heat up little proteins or bread. It's like, maybe 8 inches by 6 inches, and they're stainless steel, and they're called like passing trays also. Everyone at a restaurant will know what that is, but it seems like everybody else doesn't know what that is, and they're so amazing.
I also am seeing a lot of protein weights.
Oh, yeah. Chef's Press.
On Chef's Press. On Instagram. You have them, and some other folks I've been seeing weighing down their steaks, and pork chops and all that. And I'm like, maybe I need one of those.
Yeah, super helpful.
And pressing down their tofu, all those things. So you bench scraper and you... Wait, what'd you call it again? A sizzle tray.
Spoon, sizzle tray, bowl. I got multiple.
What's always in your fridge? I'm guessing a million things.
Fruit.
Okay.
Yogurt.
Favorite snack food?
I'm saying raspberries.
1 full carton of raspberries is half a snack for me.
Yeah.
And then I like to have some nuts.
Yeah.
I tried mango.
All right. What are you streaming right now? What are you watching?
We just finished watching this show called Tehran, which is interestingly a show about spies. Curb Your Enthusiasm with Larry David. I love him. There are some episodes where he's like screaming too much and it's like, okay, enough complaining. But I know that's the whole shtick. So I'm like, I don't know where my line is with when it goes from funny to annoying. But most of the time I think it's funny.
And the Spite Shop.
Yes.
Oh my God, yeah.
Boca Joe.
What are you watching?
I just finished watching The Night of the Seven Kingdoms, that new Game of Thrones spinoff. It was fantastic. Too short, though. These episodes like 25 minutes. I was like, you start it, you look away for 1 second, it's over. Yeah, great show.
Okay. Dream travel destination.
I really want to go to Patagonia. Yeah, I would love to go on like a big hiking trip. And then I just saw on Instagram there's some beautiful bougie wellness hotel there that I would also love to go to.
Mm-hmm. I'm dying to go to like Fiji or the Philippines, like real tropical.
Fave food film.
The movie about that woman cooking through all of Julia Child's recipes.
Julie and Julia.
Julie and Julia.
Mhm.
That comes to mind, but
Stanley Tucci.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Max
Right.
went
And
to
Meryl
one of his
Streep.
events. Yeah, she was in that film?
Yeah.
She played Julia.
Yeah. Phantom Thread, I think it's called.
Oh.
We just watched
That's
that
an interesting choice.
recently.
Oh, God, that's such a great answer. Shoot.
It's
and
not quite what you think of as a food film, but yeah.
no, a lot of that movie made me want to be better at cooking.
Okay, final question.
Mhm.
If you had to be trapped on a desert island with one food celebrity, who would it be and why? And you can't say each other.
Matty Matheson. I've never met this man, but I think he has a great personality. He feels like a survivalist and like a good time kind of guy. And I feel like we could just do some really cool stuff on that island and like build some cool stuff, eat some good food. I think we'd have a great time.
You'd laugh, you'd cook.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe Stanley Sushi. Yeah. I'm sure many people have said him before.
Stanley, we love you. He's been on the podcast, but for some reason, no one picks you to be on the desert island with. He's a
You
great
and me,
choice.
Stanley.
It might be a little romantic. Might put out the white tablecloth for you.
Anyway, I have a million other questions for you two that we didn't even get to, but hopefully this is just the first of many times you come on the show. I have so much admiration for the two of you and what you're doing to really help people. You know, whether, Max, it's you with your teaching people how to cook, which is such an important skill. And Lydia, you building this online and offline community based around creativity and movement. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you. It was so fun chatting with you. And I always feel bad about like the one-sided nature of being a guest on a podcast. So we do actually have to get dinner and so we can talk to you about your life.
That is what a podcast is about, Lydia. It's okay.
Yes, thank you so much.
Don't feel bad. Maybe we'll get stuck in Ireland again together.
That would be a dream.
That would be dreamy. So, all right. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it for today's show. Thank you to Max and Lydia for joining me. And thank you to Peter Salm for his support. Our theme song is by the band Tra La La. Joseph Hazen is a studio engineer for Newsstand Studios at Rockefeller Center. Our producers are Catherine Baker and Jenna Sadu. Our executive assistant is Bridget Pittman. And our head of partnerships is Rachel Close. Thanks for listening, everybody. You're the bomb.